Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. We are here back again on Cuppa Confidence, the place to be, as I always say. We usually have like different guests on there, as you see, and we glean a little bit of information about confidence. What is confidence? What's it about? And we learn from others' journey as well. Now, this young man is special. I know I say my guests are special, always say that, but I'm telling you something here, right? Let me tell you something. I met him along the way when he was doing a radio show, breakfast show in the morning, which is a great show. And every time I heard him speak, he's very polite and precise on all his comments and all that. I thought, this guy's interesting. One day, gonna get him on, And it turns out that I appear on the same breakfast show as well, monthly as well. We'll tell you about that at the end so you can all tune in because it's a brilliant place to be, that show. Honestly, first thing in the morning, inspiration, right? But going back to what we're talking about, is that we came on the show and there was discussions and I just had it in my mind, you know what, he'll be great on Cup of Confidence. So I'm not gonna spend much time talking about how great he is. I'm gonna let him tell you his story instead. So welcome on board, Will Okafor Oregan. Welcome. Yay!
Oh,
Hey Will, how you doing?
I feel really great, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you.
Ah, listen, this is our pleasure. I'm excited about how it's all going to go and, the information you've got to share. Because usually we have people a lot mature in that sense in what they know. But you've got so much back in your head at such a young age. I want to know how come, man, and what's going on. And I'm sure your guest
Oh,
after I said that thinking, pen and pad, let me get this one in. So, Will, tell us about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
okay. So I'm William. I go by Will, probably my preferred just abbreviation of my name. And then I'm 24 years old, born and raised in London, UK.
Yeah.
And right now, I work part time in a couple of jobs in broadcasting and sports writing. So obviously, as Chris just alluded to, I'm with the breakfast show at Liberty Radio, live on air, just contributing that way. I've been doing that for the last 1.5 years. And something I've been doing for the last 4 months, a bit more regularly now, is I'm a sports journalist with the non-league paper. We cover the non-professional football in England. And also something that I've been doing for a couple of years part time, just on the weekends, which kind of kickstarted everything else that I've actually gone on to do anyway, is something that isn't even really in line with what I was planning to do long term. But yeah, I work in the kitchen as a kitchen utility associate locally in a pub near me. And yeah, I've been doing that one for like just over 2 years now. And so yeah, I just bounce between a few jobs, but keeps me active, keeps my brain refreshed and excited with different things to do in the week. So
Wow.
that's me.
That's quite a lot, actually. I mean, come on. You said, hang on, radio broadcasting, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. You're a journalist as well, sports journalist as well. I mean, there are people out there who are wondering, how do you get to do all that at the same time? I mean, come on, where does that come from?
So I'd be honest. Growing up, I was a full-time student. I didn't really take time out of to do part-time work and to get that sort of experience. So I
Right,
found that by the time I graduated, I hadn't really had anything like consistent paid work. I'd only had stuff that I'd done one-off, maybe received a payment for just this little slight job here and there. So for me, I thought that what was important was that I understood like a important I thought what was important for me was to understand what a consistent work routine is like and to be in a challenging environment. So I had a very good friend that lives close to me. He was working in the restaurant, and he, he was saying he was enjoying the job. He'd only been there for like a couple months. I said, "Oh, you should join." And because I was unemployed at the time, I just thought, actually, maybe this is actually what I was looking for, where it's not anything that I was considering as a career, but I
right.
just felt like there was things that I could learn from doing this job, and to tell you the truth, I've learned way more than I ever even anticipated, and it was great for me because it also helped give me a big boost in my own confidence journey at an important time where I was at a crossroads trying to figure out what I should do as a career. So
Wow.
it gave me a lot of practical lessons as to consistent schedule, what's expected of me in a work environment,
Mhm.
having like quick deadlines and like a high pressure environment and things like that. So, and that gave
Right.
me the impetus to actually just go further along as to what I'd studied to look into
Mhm.
going into journalism. And that's how I found myself at the radio show. And then over a year later, that's how I've also found myself doing sports journalism. So it wasn't that I did three jobs all at once. It was just kind of bit by bit, slowly leading into the
Yeah.
other. And that's where I am today now.
Wow. Wow. You know what? We're saying all that and taking so much information and we just started. The one thing we got to do is we got to find out something else as well. Now, this is Cuppa
Okay.
Confidence, right?
Of
So we
course.
always kind of bring our cup on there, and then we need to take a sip because we've learned so much already. We need to stop, take a sip of our cuppas, and have a little conversation about it. And we're going to dive deep into a bit more about Will here. So, Will, have you got your cup with you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I've been dying to sip. I have.
Oh wow! Hang
Cool.
on. What cup's that?
Yeah. So this is it's a huge mug. To be fair, I got some tea. I wish I had hot chocolate, but we should keep about two cans, and both of them were empty. If you can believe that. So so I've just got some everyday tea. I like a little bit of milk in my tea, so yeah, just some everyday tea. And literally, I keep this mug around because it just lets me have this gigantic quantity of whatever hot beverage I wanted to have at the time.
Wow. You know what? I can see from this way, I can see the RTS in it. So I can tell, good for the advertising. I can tell which company that is and which mug that is. Their mugs are big. You have
Yes.
one of those all the time.
Yeah, literally, yeah. You know, we do have some small ones, but honestly, I just neglect those ones. I always go for this one, to be
Uh,
honest with you.
growing lad, eh? All right. Listen, I've got my traditional Cup of Confidence mug here. And
Awesome.
I think I need to slow down here. Yeah. You try looking at it. You
Yeah,
try and
I
look at it.
have.
Oh. There we
Oh,
go. Don't
yeah,
spill it all
my
over
was
the
a bit.
laptop now.
Yeah, mine was to the brim. I think the lighting you can't really see it very well actually without me risking spilling it on the laptop,
The
unfortunately.
laptop. I better stop doing that with my guests, tipping it all the time because there's going to be some day where someone go, oh, right. Well, what I've got in here is a cup of peppermint, really, so I could just calm and chill because I know you got a lot to say and a lot to share, and I can just sit back a bit and just take it in. And you know what, listeners out there, I hope you got your cuppa as well. Just chill and listen to what's happening. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Cup
Cheers.
of confidence to you.
Cup of confidence to you too.
Thank you. Right. So let's still because we know what you're doing right now. Right. Let's put this
Yes.
cup down. Right. We know what you're doing right now.
Right.
But all right, 24, still quite a journey. And this is about cup of confidence. It's about confidence, right? Tell us about younger Will. What was younger Will like, his confidence journey and how he got to where he got to?
I have no choice but to just really talk about my childhood because that was probably the previous stage than where I am right now.
Hmm.
So from what I can recall, I always felt like in school, even all the way to this day, I think one thing that's been very consistent is that I always got along well with people. I always found it very
Right.
easy to relate to people, and I think as I got into my teenage years, I was noticing that people that I was relating to would be so different from one another. So I found
Mhm.
myself getting along with people with like whoever I sat with in whatever class, whatever lesson, things like that. I felt like I was appreciated by people, and I felt like I had a great appreciation for people. So
Right.
I always felt like that was something that always rang true. But I think something with my confidence was probably my shyness with talking about how I really feel about things and maybe revealing things that I don't know if sensitive information is the right word, but I'd say things that were like I held close to my heart. So
Right.
it's a here's like a silly example. For example, I think lots of people growing up they'd have their friendship circles, and maybe if they had like a crush on someone in school, they'd tell their friends. For me,
Mhm.
Batman couldn't get that information out of me. Like Batman could have me held up against a wall. He's not getting me. He's not getting that out of me. I would
Right.
never.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny because I laugh at it now, but then I think about it like, yeah, when I was growing up, yeah, I never would tell any of my friends if I was interested in someone or anything like that, and even that, like if I was interested in someone, I'd never reveal those feelings to that person or whatever, even if I knew that person pretty well or not. So when I think about my confidence, it was more being bold and talking about how I really feel. So that was something that I didn't quite get along to until I probably started sixth form in 16, 17, and I
Right.
felt
Can I just ask one question, Leah? I don't
yeah.
know if, let's just pull back a bit. Why wouldn't you tell someone at a time?
Because I always imagined that. And actually, that's a good question because that it probably says quite a lot about it. Is I found it very difficult to picture a good outcome from me revealing how I truly felt about things.
Right.
So
Hmm.
I think a part of me was probably kids sitcoms or TV shows when I was growing up. I'd seen stuff where if the main character reveals how he's feeling to someone here, he could get the Mickey taken out of him, or
Right.
you'd have someone laugh at him. Or I always just believe that if I ever told people how I felt about this or that, I'll just get laughed at by everyone who knows me, and somehow the entire school would find out and everyone would laugh at me. So I think I
Right.
had a thing for as a kid for imagining the worst possible outcome.
Okay.
And
Oh, that's interesting. I was thinking there must be some lady out there, mature now, who's 24 as well, and saying, Will, why didn't you tell me? One that got by, yeah?
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
carry on.
yeah. There must be, there's got to be a couple. But yeah, it's funny, and I look back at it now, and I'm happy that I can laugh at it. But yeah, it was something that was very very consistent for a number of my years in school. I keep my cards close to my chest. But now
Right,
I
right.
found myself in my later teenage years to my early adulthood. I'm very confident and fine with taking the risk of telling people how I truly feel about things. But now also I'm not too concerned about being laughed at because I know how to stand up for myself and to stand true. As long as I know it's something that I know I've said truthfully and said it with the right intentions, I don't mind standing up for myself. And I'd say doubling down on what I'm saying, not allowing people to just talk me back or try to make me backtrack.
Right.
That was a skill that I developed into my late teenagehood. And I suppose in a way that maybe that coincided with just learning how to trust people more. And I think at age 16, I had like an important step in my faith journey where I'm Catholic and I'd done my confirmation for the first time around age
Okay.
16. And
Hmm.
I'd say that's when I had like a much stronger relationship with God. And, I was always raised in that faith, but I feel like my relationship really properly started when I was age 16.
Right.
And I do think that it's no coincidence that my confidence in myself and in what I was expecting out of life picked up dramatically. And I think it's positively affected other areas of my life since.
Wow. So when you say you said in your background, your faith,
Right.
you said it picked up dramatically then after you said have confirmation. Explain, because there's a lot of us out here who might not understand that.
Forgive me, because whenever this happens, like I always find it so difficult to describe
Right.
exactly
Well,
what it is per
what
se.
we're asking, okay, well, let's put it this way. What kind of changes inside of you, said after you got baptized, what sort of changes came about after that that made you confident? What was it?
Okay, so I think I think I ended up doing it at a very ideal time where I was just about to finish my GCSEs and leave secondary school and move into sixth form.
Hmm.
So that was for like the first time in like 5 years where I'd be moving to an entirely different school, and most people that I knew at school weren't going to be going to that school. So I'd have like basically a whole school of new people to sort of get to know, introduce myself to. But it was also a good opportunity to reinvent myself as well. So I
Right.
felt like with my faith, I pray every day. I'd learn to when I'm struggling with things, I would learn to sort of pray and ask for guidance
Hmm.
and put my faith in higher power and just know that actually I'm not all alone trying to figure out everything out in my life. So and then from there, like I said, it was a good opportunity to reinvent myself. So it was a good opportunity to not necessarily change who I was, but just to show more of who I was than what I'd previously done in school. And of course, like I said, I hadn't done part-time work outside of school growing up and things like that. So most of the time where I socialized, it literally just was with people that I met at school. So
Right.
I felt like that was such a massive part of my confidence journey because I began to have a better understanding as to the kind of will that I want to show the world. And by the time I joined university at age 18. It was only like a couple months after my birthday because I'm quite young in the school year. Like my birthday's
Hmm.
in July. So I'd only been
Okay.
18 for a couple of months, and as you know, all of a sudden when you're 18, you're legally allowed to do all kinds of things. But I just remember spending
Yeah.
that summer just like keeping to myself, relaxing, spending time with my family. Then all of a sudden you're thrown in at the deep end where I moved to a different city again, a new school. But in this case, it's not just like a few thousand people. It's like tens of thousands of students, going to university, a city where I don't
Hmm.
know anyone that goes to or that goes
Right.
here or lives here. So again, like just a couple of years later, there was another brand new opportunity to reinvent myself, and that's where I feel like most of my learning about myself happened during 18 and 21 at university. And now I think about the person who I am and the things that people tell me that they like about me and the things that people say that, oh, I've tried to do this because of you, whatever. It's all happened from at least age 21 upwards. So I think the person that I resonate with now is probably the biggest product of my time at university, I think.
Wow. Wow. That's
And
that's
yeah,
really interesting, the transition. So taking it from how you were before to the point of transition you said after being baptized, the change that you had, the extra confidence, to coming up now. We've come up just before, let's say, just going to university. Now, I'm getting the impression here that each time there was a shift, a change, you reinvented yourself. Yeah.
yes, yes, for
Okay.
sure.
Right. So when we say reinvent ourselves, because there are people who are a lot more mature as well, and sometimes they're still kind of stuck in a certain place and realize, the changes happening around them. What could I do? What would you say about that reinventing? What does that take?
So I think with reinventing myself, or if anyone reinventing themselves, I think there's probably like a misconception in my mind where I think people think that they now just have to just wipe off everything on the whiteboard and just start anew. But I think
Mm,
if I could use that analogy, I just think it's wiping off parts of things on the whiteboard. It doesn't even have to be a dramatic change. It could be, but
right.
it's not about getting rid of everything about yourself. It's just about changing some things that you felt like you've always wanted to change, but you didn't
Hmm.
really have maybe the impetus, or you just didn't really understand how you could do it or when you should do it. So I think for me, I was lucky where changing schools and having like a new stage of my education, it sort of just put me in a position where actually, well, if you're not going to do it now, then when are you going to do it? And I
Right.
think what was actually key for me is I didn't make a conscious decision to reinvent myself. I just found myself doing it, and then somewhere along the way, I realized that actually I was doing things differently to how I've done things before. So I'd say
Right.
with university, because it was my first time moving out, so to speak, temporarily, but just being totally responsible for myself, managing
Right.
my own money totally, managing how I'm doing my work, how I'm doing my social activities, or how I do anything outside of work or school.
Hmm.
I was thinking like,
Yeah.
oh, in that sort of situation, I think a lot of people that age will relate to is that you kind of don't really have a choice at all. Like you actually got to change because things are just for now are not what they used to be. So
Right.
I know for some people they probably still live at home and commute to university, so maybe they didn't get that particular opportunity to have a dramatic change in their daily lifestyle. But for me,
Hmm.
and anyone else who's moved out of home, gone to a different city or whatever, I'd say
Right.
it was a great opportunity. So for me, I managed to push myself to do things that I didn't do before. So I think at age 18, that was the first time I joined the gym. At age 18 was probably the first time I joined like a Sunday football league. And I've always loved football growing up, but I'd never played it really consistently outside of kicking
Right.
a ball on a playground. So, doing that was something that I'd wanted to do, and I had the opportunity to do it. But I think also importantly is that you meet other people who are young adults and they're also going through similar journeys as you, even though they may be going about it differently. So I was fortunate where I met people very early on who we got along like a house on fire, and we both, we all pushed each other and helped each other along this way. So I helped people develop and they helped me develop. So I think that was something that was also
That is
very
brilliant.
unique because even though I had close friends in sixth form, secondary school, even primary school, that sort of steps where these people are kind of like my family away from my family, where I've moved to the
Right.
city and I don't know anyone. This was very different to any of those sort of stages where you get an even closer bond with these people, in my opinion. and
Mhm.
and because of that, I don't think I could have developed as well without the people that I got to meet, and even the people who things might not have worked out or gone south, but they taught me lessons about myself and they taught me lessons about people. These are things that I've managed to carry with me, and all of it, in moments where your confidence, I wouldn't think your confidence is ever just constantly going up. It will always be like a roller coaster. So there were definitely some downs.
I bet.
There were definitely some moments where I was unsure. I'll share like a short story where in my first year of university, I was tasked for the first time to now look for an accommodation for the next year, even before this first year is finished. And I was very lax with it. I was very, because I hadn't done it before, so I didn't realize that actually this was something that I needed to be on the ball on quite early on. So
Right.
unfortunately, I learned the hard way where I'd let too much time go by and options were going. And I remember I'd had pressure. people in my family like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you not getting this done? And I remember I was at a really low point where I found it difficult to even like answer the phone, because every time I thought someone was going to call me, it was to like critique me about like that I'm not doing this right or properly. So I remember
Wow.
being, so I remember that being like a real low point. But I remember speaking to another family member who she didn't really tell me too much that I can remember, but I just remember whatever words she told me sort of reinforced my belief in myself. And and even though it wasn't like her babying me, like she did kind of end off with, you are a big boy now, Will, so get up and go and do it, but you can do it, and that was something that, even just hearing that from one person, it gave me that impetus where I sorted it out. And then when I sorted it out, I just felt like, oh, so simple, but it felt like a mountain to climb, because I just didn't have that belief in myself to do it at the time. So even in that way, it was something that made me realize that actually just believing in yourself is usually the difference between you thinking you're walking along a gigantic bridge or you walking along a small one. Sometimes,
Right.
we have the ability to do things. It's just that we don't have the willpower to sort of like put the key in the ignition of the car. But you know how to drive the car, but sometimes you're just not willing to start it. And I think for me, that
Right.
was something that helped me. And anytime I had like another low in university or any other stage of my life, I felt like because of that, I knew that, okay, this low moment, I can acknowledge that it's a low moment. I can acknowledge that things aren't feeling great. But I knew no matter what, I'm not gonna stay here. I am gonna work, even if it's like baby steps, I'm gonna get myself back up there and improve and get better, overcome my obstacle, and and get along. And yeah, there were definitely some more big obstacles to come later on in my university journey that helped me to grow up a bit more.
You know something, I really appreciate everything you're saying. I'm sure our listeners and our viewers really appreciate too, to realize, look, this is what we go through. This is what, no matter what stage in life, what we go through. I mean, I could relate to you talking about when you got baptized. We're jumping back a bit now, because myself being a man of faith, man of God, it's like I know that sort of confidence that you're not alone. At the end of the day, it's not you figuring it all out along the way. But the thing that got me is when you said, and that's something you relate to as well, is we're talking about university life, so we take these dips. I work with some of the universities as well, like coaching, with students and staff and all. And I've seen a lot of those dips and those doubts that come around that time, particularly. It seems like it's a very shaky ground. But what I'm going back to is when you said to the point of not wanting to even pick up the phone where the doubts came in. So even though we had this faith, it was my wife driving over this bridge, and it was so high. Which bridge was that? I can remember the name of it actually. And I remember just driving, thinking, "Oh, it's okay, no problem." And all of a sudden, I looked over to the side and I saw, if something went wrong, and your mind starts taking you into that place of the outcome. So obviously, because of what I do, I know how to pull that back in, rein it back in. It's not happened. This is now. Keep going. At the end of the day, but you're talking about the keep going, that you found tools to get through all this. What was it?
So I think it was important to keep a good circle of people around me. So I found that throughout my time at university, because I changed different accommodations, I got new opportunities to meet people and befriend new people. But I think
Mhm.
probably my core group of people were always consistently with me in university. And honestly, like, I thank God where I had good people that kept me grounded and helped lifted me up, even if they didn't quite realize that I was actually down on my luck the way that I actually was. But the way that they just were as people, they helped me to get over those moments. But also my family as well, my mom and my brother, like, the definitely the people that love me the most in the world, and they always had my back, always supported me, even if I didn't necessarily agree, if we didn't see eye to eye with certain things, but they always supported me and
Right,
encouraged me, always willing to call me or to speak on the phone. And I'm someone who,
right,
like, I'm not really, I think my friends know this about me, like, I'm not really a big FaceTimey kind of person, oh, let's chat for a couple hours. But I remember my mom would always push that. And I didn't think I realized at the time, but I definitely realized when I'd finished, like, those calls were very important, helped me be grounded, helped me always, like, reinforce, know that, well, you're not on your own. You've got people who are rooting for you, people who love you. So I think having a good unit of people is important. And I do know that everyone has their own sort of relationship with their family. So I know some people, unfortunately, might not have that luxury. But I do feel
exactly.
like what people should also remember is it's still always in your hands to go and find good people to have around you, and to also be
Hmm.
a good person in other people's circle as well. Because there's a saying, like, if you show me the five people who are closest to you, I could show you your future. And
That's
Honestly,
right.
like I heard that saying when I was quite younger, but every year that goes by, it's something that rings true. Like you can see how just the small detail of the people you keep around you can help you go down the right path or the wrong path. And I think keeping the right people around me helped always remember to believe in myself and to keep going. And I think something else that was important is, when you go through difficult moments, sometimes you start glancing at the exit route. Things like I know I met a number of people studying who they dropped out after 1 year. Some of them dropped out after 1.5 years. But I think what was
Mm,
important for me was that I never thought about dropping out as an option. And I know some people who jokingly they'll be like, "Oh, I've already spent so much money on the loan and this and that I can't drop out, or what are my parents going to think of me if I do." Blah, blah, blah. But for me, I I was happy with the course that I chose to do. It was something that I'd always thought about doing as a kid. I was happy with where I chose to go. I believed in the sort of research process that I did before going. That I made sure I was choosing the right environment to go to, and from there, I just believed in the plan. Even when things weren't going the exact way that I thought, I was like, just believe in the plan, believe in yourself. And when I think about it, every obstacle that I had to go through, some of them felt like it was an insurmountable task, but I got through them. I got through them simply
mm,
by not staying on the ground by when I get knocked down. And that's
right.
and that's the number one thing. Sometimes you don't always know the exact way you're going to tackle an obstacle straight away, but if you hang in there, something comes to light and you find your way.
Wow, wow, wow. That's fascinating. That's some great advice. I'm going to dip back into that at the same time as well. And yeah, with you on that one.
So once I got the first sip in, I've been trying my best to be disciplined with it, but I've already got through half of this gigantic mug already. Honestly.
You know what you said about your family support and friends and all that, and I know you're a sociable guy. He's talked to it. Let me tell you, listeners out there, this gentleman, this man is so polite, and to me, like you know, manners is like oxygen. When I meet someone, I see it, it's like wow. So I don't know who to give credit. Is it your mother or what? But you were brought up very disciplined, or your father, or what?
Yeah,
Tell
definitely my mom. I always tell people I'm a product of how my mom brought me up actually. Yeah. So my mom was
yeah,
always very big on being polite. She's not
yeah.
the type who is going to let it slide if I speak disrespectfully or not, things like that. So that was definitely
Mhm.
something that I learned how to conduct myself outside. I do think one of my favorite qualities about myself, not to toot my own home, but just honestly, I do like how I think of other people around me, because I know that that's a big thing that when people do that for me, I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I try to think of other people, just hoping that it's also an energy that I get back.
No,
and
that's
and
great.
and and yeah, so that's why I'm always trying to be mindful of how I am outside. And also another thing is where I like who I am. I like where even my friends, they make jokes, "Oh, Will, your mum made you into a robot." Like some of them, like they'll run across the road as soon as a car goes by, but I'm waiting for the green man to pop up, and then they're on the other side literally looking back at me, just shaking their head. And I say, "Guys, you can shake your head, but this is what I do." And yeah,
Listen, your mum did a
yeah,
great job. Just tell her from me, give that's to your mum for me, man. She did a great job, It's
she'll
one of the
love
things
that.
that really stands out about yourself at the end of the day, and I'm glad you know of it as well. It's knowing ourselves is really good. Now,
Thank you.
you mentioned about having family and friends around and being university and, being carried through with these calls. What would you say to somebody who you slightly tipped on it as well, who doesn't have that relationship with their family and many friends, or they find it hard to actually interact in their communication? What would you say to someone like that in the same situation at university?
Okay, so my advice for people in university is, and I know this where it wasn't my own experience, but I put that down to luck rather than something that I had done. I was
Hmm.
fortunate where wherever I lived, there was always quite a few people, who, if not everyone, that I managed to get along with. But then people that I was able to foster good friendships with, that I lived with. But
Right.
I know for some people, you may live with people who you don't feel like are including you. And actually, I think I'm sorry for young people, but this is something that I just got to bring up. I noticed with a lot of university students, just in my
Hmm.
own time, like visiting friends in other accommodations and things like that, lots of people are very, very messy and don't keep on top of the ball of cleaning up after themselves. So I know with
Hmm.
some people, some of the problems they have is that they put food in the fridge and someone else sneakily takes some of their food. I know some people, they clean up after themselves in the common areas, but then other people aren't doing it. So then you don't even want to cook in the kitchen, or you don't even want to eat in the living room because you don't even feel comfortable to be there, and things like that. And how things like that can affect people's relationships. But I just want people
Right.
to know that the people you live with, they don't have to be the people that you get along with and you form these friendships with. I think everyone goes to university thinking of this ideal, so like utopia type of experience that they're going to have everything perfectly go right, but sometimes it won't. But I just want
Hmm.
people to know that, just even based on probability alone, like, you've got thousands of fellow students that go to your school. It
Hmm.
might not even be people that are on your course that you can relate to, but the people that you could relate to, they're somewhere out there. But I just want to challenge people to be sort of the master of their own life, and just know that as long as you have a desire to be around people, it's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to feel like you're not around people that
Okay.
you've managed to relate to. But I just want people to know that that's not the be all and end all, just because it started off like that, or just like, maybe you're 1 year in and you still haven't found people. I just know that they are out there, but you just gotta go out of your way and find them. So I know for some people, I probably took this for granted, just thinking everybody knows it, but actually not everyone does. So most universities, if not all of them, will have a student union, and in
Hmm.
this day and age, our student unions have lots of activities that they put on, especially during the first week of school for the freshers or refreshers events. But they usually have lots of events that they have all throughout the year, and they really do. I really got to give a lot of universities in this country credit. They really do go out there way to try and cater to as many different interests as possible. And
Right.
obviously, you have students that go to school that will work in student unions as well, and they're coming up with ideas. They, on the ground level, they have an idea of what kind of things that students like. And I would say what, luckily, I think a lot of students might have is that I think some young people think that everyone that's a young person that goes to university has got to be a big sort of contributor or partaker in this like drinking culture that we've got in our country's universities and things like that. But you don't have to be
Mm.
someone who you like to go out and drink this or that to be socializing with other people. So I don't want people to think that if they're not like that, that they can't find people, because like 99%
Right.
of people are like this. It's actually not like that. There's a lot of other people who they are not big on drinking. There's lots of other people who they're very big on studying, and I think things like you go to the library and you study, just push yourself a bit to just try to have a chat with someone or introduce yourself to someone, or you go, or if you're someone who you're big on sports, there's lots of intramural clubs that you can just sort of go and join. Maybe you could pay like a year membership, or you just sort of come in and go when you please, and you play. And I think that way, that's a keen way of finding people who are maybe like-minded because they have a similar interest. There's so
Yeah.
many different societies in like every university, quite literally as much as you can even think of. And if you can't find one that actually you feel like you would like, you're actually able to start one up yourself as well. So I think there's so many things that people don't even realize that they can do, but
Right.
the people that who could be like some of the closest friends, not even just now, but even for like the earliest part of your adulthood, and even the middle of your adulthood or whatever. I genuinely believe you're likely to find them in university, if nothing else. So, I
Hmm.
just feel like people got to try and push themselves a bit. But I
Right.
think even just before you push yourself, just know that the options are out there and there are people out there. So you just got to try and push yourself to find those people. But they are out there, and don't stick to yourself thinking that you're destined to just go through this journey alone, because you might end up even dropping out prematurely, when actually, had you just found the right network of people, they could have kept you going.
Well, you know what? That is some great, brilliant advice. And if you're going through this right now, replay this, what Willis said, because I'm sure it'll make a difference. And the fact they actually said that you're about, feel like you're about to drop out at this present moment and making that difference, I'm sure it's going to touch many thinking about this now. I don't need to do that. I don't need to give up. Let's
Yeah.
carry on. It's not as bad as we think. It's always bad when you're in the actual moment, but when you can actually look and see down the line that, hey, you know what? What if I did? What if I did give up at that time? But that time you've broken through, So thank you for that. Thank you. I'm going to shift on a bit. Obviously, we're on time, but let me just ask you about this. So we've gone from child to school days to university, work life, coming out of university. What was it like? Because I remember we had a slight conversation about that, and you saying about that's the time when the confidence went in some place, knowing about your career. And we go, tell us about that.
Yes. So this
Yeah.
one was probably my, let's say, my latest big dip in confidence. So this was right after
Right.
I'd finished university. I have to admit, so I started university late 2018. So when COVID hit in early 2020, I was literally
Mm,
just approaching the halfway point of my 3 year course. So I'd say the
mhm.
second half of my time in university was quite a, I wouldn't say a troublesome time because like I said again, I had a good network of people. So actually, I actually always felt like we made the best of our circumstances. But in terms of the studying part, it was very difficult. I know for the people teaching me because they sort of had to rework so many things. And then obviously
Right.
COVID wasn't expected, so it was like dramatically halfway through my second year, the next sort of term and a half. I was just in my accommodation, just working from home. I had like the weirdest sleeping patterns and things like that. But I managed to get through all of that stuff. But I think what I found was by the time I graduated, I was no longer as sure as I was from when I started university as to what type of job I wanted to do. Because I had things
Mhm.
lined up, I had work experience opportunities lined up that quite literally they just got wiped out because of COVID. Couldn't have people come in
Right.
and do things.
Wow.
So by the time
Wow.
I so by the time I graduated, I didn't have any practical experience by the
Mm,
time I'd finished my third year, and I was supposed to have that experience, and I was even due to have it because I had it lined up, and yeah, and that was something that by the time I finished, I was quite resentful that I didn't get to have those opportunities, and I felt like, I'll be honest with you, I felt like an imposter. I felt like I've got my degree, and obviously it's very easy to just get on camera and say this, but I know I didn't cheat to get my degree. Like I knew I got it legitimately, but I felt
mhm.
like in terms of the actual experience and skill level, I felt like I should have been higher in terms of my skill
Okay.
level. So I
Right.
knew I had a legitimate qualification, but I just don't feel like I had the skill set of someone that had that kind of qualification.
Mm,
So I found it very difficult to push myself to apply for jobs because I was so certain that without any experience, and even if I somehow got the job, I didn't feel like I had the skill or the knowledge to do the jobs properly. So I found it very difficult to even apply, let alone do the job interviews because I was just so certain that they would certainly give it to anybody else. I won't pass any of them. So I found it very difficult to actually push myself to. So I found myself, I think that summer maybe the couple months afterwards, I kind of just wanted a bit of a break from university because I felt so burnt out. And yeah, I didn't do a gap year or anything like that. So I kind of had sort of like 18 or 19 straight years of being in school, like literally every year of my life. So all of a
mm,
sudden, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, I'm no longer a student. My day-to-day schedule is going to be totally different than anything I've ever had before. And I
right.
was really struggling to adjust to it. And because I didn't really know where I should take my career, I just sort of found myself where the days and weeks and even months were just going by. I'm eating into my savings that I was saving up during university. And then,
Mhm.
but by the time it got to like nearly a year later, my savings were ate up. I'd started doing my YouTube channel, which
Yeah.
I'm still doing to now. But I did start up properly during that time. I started making these videos that I was enjoying doing. But to be honest with you, even then, like I just felt like I was sort of delaying or distracting a bit. And some of my favorite videos I ever made was actually made during that time where I was unsure what to do with my career. But because I did have the free time to work on those videos, but
Mm,
I just kind of knew like I'm not gonna, even though as much as I wanted to do these kind of things for a living, I just knew like right now I'm just starting on my YouTube. I'm not gonna make money off of this straight away that I can avoid doing a job. So I felt like I was just putting off the inevitable for a while.
mhm.
And then eventually, as I said earlier, I had a friend who was working in a restaurant locally. I think I was just about to finish my savings. So then, like I was really at a crossroads, like, what am I going to do? And then that's where I joined this restaurant. Initially, it was a job that I didn't even really plan to do at all, but I just like, I'll just go for it. And I remember where it's a job where it's kind of like a high turnover. So it's not like a
Mhm.
job where you particularly have to have like a ton of qualifications or experience to get it. But even then, I
Mm,
just didn't believe I was going to get the job because I couldn't picture why anyone would hire me to do anything, let alone anything specifically. So
right.
I just remember I think the people that I usually trust most with advice is my mum. My mum's experienced a lot of things. I trust her wisdom. But with this one, I just didn't ask her for opinion on it. I didn't ask for anyone's opinion on it. I just kind of psyched myself up. It was like, okay, I'm gonna find this person's email, apply. They did give me. I said, oh, I'll come in a couple of days time. So, okay, cool. I'm just gonna dress up, smart shoes, smart shirt, trousers, look the part.
Excuse
And I just thought, yeah, you just look the part, just go in there and you just try your best. And whatever happens, happens. And I'm so happy I
me.
did that because that was the first time in a year that I'd actually felt like I wasn't letting possible outcomes weigh me down and stop me from doing something.
Right.
So,
Right.
and when I look back at it now, I think like, wow, what a crucial step that was, because who knows what could have happened in the last sort of two and a bit years if I just didn't do that. And literally, yeah, I just did that. I did the interview, and I didn't go in there thinking, oh, I'm gonna game plan and present myself a certain way. I genuinely just went there and was like, this is my CV. Whatever's on there is on there. I'm just gonna speak to you super honestly. I'm just gonna try and present myself. I'm just gonna show you the real me, my real personality, my the work ethic. And yeah, I just got the job pretty much immediately. And yeah, I think initially I'd been doing that full time, so I was doing like between 40 to 50 hours a week.
Hmm.
Before I, like, and I didn't start off like that straight away, but gradually within like a month or two, I ended up doing that length of hours. So I remember, especially the time of the year where I applied, where it was getting to winter, so it's usually a typically busy period of time for like restaurants and stuff. So I just found myself doing like sometimes 12-hour work days where I'm waking up, I get ready, go in, I finish so late that I just go to sleep and I wake up again, and I remember all of that kind of stuff. And
My
then I
gosh.
thought, and I felt like at one point, my mom I said this a bunch of times, like, well, weren't you just supposed to work here just so you can get some money, so you can get camera equipment and do the YouTube videos and do stuff that you actually really wanted to do? And I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll do it. And then, but I kept just shelving that because I kept just having so much work that I wasn't even thinking of
Wow.
what my original plan even was. So I just got caught up with the work. But I did find that when I look back at it, it was important for me to have had that period, and it was even important for me to have that period in the wilderness, just not knowing what I wanted to do, because all of it led me to here. All of it gave me some clarity where I know what it's like to not know what you want to do, or what direction you should go in. I know what it's like where you're just doing work, 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 and it's not actually the work you wanted to do long term, but it's putting food on the table, it's giving you the money to pay your bills and things like that. But I
Sorry,
eventually,
Will, I'm going to ask you this one question there. Where'd you get that
yeah,
resilience from? Because you didn't know the ending, you didn't know the outcome. And when you did have outcomes, you had a negative thought of outcomes. So where'd
right.
you get this resilience to go through this?
That's an awesome question, because a part of me thinks that surely the resilience must have been in there. I just needed to find the key to open that chest and let it out. So when I think about what that key was, I think I just go back to what I said before, was the people around me. Where my friend, I would think to myself that actually I wouldn't have gone for that job had I not had a friend that was already working there. And I think the plan that I built up for myself was like, oh, I've got a good friend that works there. We if I join there, then at least I have someone there who I know has got my back and support me.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, when I went to work there, he actually left within a month of me being there. To be honest with you, and even when we
He
were
really
there,
was
I think,
different.
yeah, it's so ironic, isn't it? Like, you get there, and then within barely any time, he's gone. But and then when we was there, we barely even worked together at all. Anyway, we didn't really have coinciding shifts, things like that. So I kind of figured out, it was literally my first time working there. All the people I worked with were so welcoming and encouraging, and they were patient
Mhm.
with me, that it gave me that confidence literally right from the very first time I started working there. And when I think of it now, I don't think I thought about it for a long time, but I realized that actually just even the one time of having a good group of people around you, it does wonders. It does wonders. Every time that I ever didn't know what direction to go in, it was always people around me, even if they're close to me, even if they're people who, in that instance, I'd literally just met them, but they gave me so much confidence and courage straight away that I knew, I was like, okay, this first one was done. It didn't kill me. I'm gonna come in for the next time. I gotta come and do a shift. And I remember I did it on the busy days. I think my first day was a Friday. I worked like the entire afternoon and evening, sort of like quite late into the night. I was like, and they told me, like, typically this is the busiest kind of day in the week. So I was lucky where I was thrown in the deep end. They're like, it's either you sink or you swim. And I think in that situation, then I swam, and it gave me the confidence and courage, and it gave me skill sets where, like I said, it's not what I was planning to do long term, but there were things that I learned about myself and things that I knew that I can do. Where I was like, oh, I can actually work when there's a lot of pressure. I can work where, I remember, like I said, there was a lot of high turnover. So there's people like coming in and out like a revolving door. So I found myself where within a couple months, I was one of the most experienced people in there, and I'm still on
Right.
probation. So like it seems ridiculous, but it's like, it's literally going out there and putting yourself in the mix, that you learn what you have and what you can, and what you don't have,
Right.
you'll pick it up. So it got to a point
That's
where I found myself training people within, and I've only got a couple months experience, but that's only because I was put in a position where I had to push myself and try and excel as quickly as I can, as much as I could. And because of that, it gave me the confidence that actually, you know what, I'm actually going to go for this broadcasting thing. I'm going to go for it. And I was lucky where with the radio show, it was my first opportunity to be online, to be on air, and I met the host Robert just totally coincidentally. And again, my mum was involved in the story. I was helping her sell some books that she had been publishing at fair. She had met Robert. She introduced me. I spoke about my background, studying broadcasting, and he just gave me a shot. And even then, like I had to like pester Robert quite a few times to give me a shot on the show, and eventually he did. And literally from the first time I went on there, where all I ever even wanted was just the opportunity to shadow and watch and see how they do. But they gave me a chance to even be on air. And ever since then, I've literally just been on because I knew I was going to go on there with put my best foot forward and impress. And yeah, they gave me the opportunity. And then
That's great.
doing what I'm doing now with the football newspaper stuff. Originally, I think I still carry something with me where applying for jobs and doing interviews where I'm still kind of like shaky, wondering how they are gonna go. But now I just go
Mhm.
into thinking, actually, you know what? There's unorthodox ways to get roles because I found myself working on radio, and I didn't apply for a job and I didn't do a job interview per se. So I just found the
See?
email of an editor. Again, I was pestering him throughout this past summer, and he was like, "Oh, late August, he'll give me an opportunity to do some work experience." And I was fine. I was fine to not get paid. I was fine to come in and spend money out of my own pocket to do this because I just wanted the opportunity to learn and to prove myself. And then
Brilliant.
now, you
Brilliant.
know, and now I freelance there regularly.
Yeah.
I get paid for the work that I do, and that was something that I was like half a year ago I wasn't even anticipating that I was going to finally be working in the thing that I thought about doing as a kid. Writing up reports of football because that's all I always wanted to do when I was a child. And somehow, some
Wow.
way, 2 years ago, I was at a crossroads wondering what kind of career am I going to do, and now 2 years later, I'm doing quite a lot of work that I feel fulfilled by and so satisfied by, and
That
it
is
just goes to
amazing.
show.
That is
Yeah,
amazing. That is amazing. I mean, the journey you've taken and you're on top now. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, you said Robert, and obviously, because we both know and we're both on that show. So you're
yeah,
talking about Robert Ashtay, right? He's
Robert
a
Ashton.
brilliant guy, host on the show, right? So, brilliant show as well, isn't it? Yeah, we always get a lot of it.
Honestly, the
But
best.
yeah. And the thing about it as well is going from broadcasting, going to journalism, which you do as well, sports journalism, that really is something. But for listeners out there and for you at university and wherever, if you notice the through thread was Will's resilience to carry on and you started making a way for yourself. You didn't wait for things to come to you. You started making a way, which I think is absolutely brilliant, absolutely fantastic. There is so much more to pull out there. Honestly, there's just so much more to pull out there. Now, listeners, look, if while you're watching this, you must have taken some notes and whatnot. We'd love to hear comments. We'd love to hear your feedback as well
For
on
sure.
Will's journey. Pass it on to him as well. See what he's doing for others by sharing this. So the one thing I'm going to ask you now is we're going to do some surefire quick. And before I do this surefire quick, right, I'll do it a little different today,
Okay.
right? Because we ended up on a real high here saying because people must have gone, oh, and you went through this and went through that, and it's, yeah, we got there, and I was like, brilliant, to see that this is where you are now. Are you happy with where you are now?
I am honestly, and I know, and the best part is I know the best is yet to come. But along my
Yeah.
journey, I've learned to not put deadlines on myself for when I need to reach the next steps.
Oh,
Every time I got to the next step, I didn't see it coming before I actually did it. So I just know like
right.
I could wake up tomorrow and the next step is here. Things like that. So I just know that 2025, I'm optimistic for what is still to come, and I'm happy with
Right.
where I am now. Yeah,
Well, you know what? When that comes 2025, we would like to revisit this and see where you are as well and showing people, look, resilience, toughness, focus on mind, you're going to get there in the end, So we'd like to call on that one at the same time. Will you do that later on?
oh yeah, we can book it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. That's what I like. So, okay, here's our questions. Different to what we do.
Okay.
Three things that you are grateful for.
Three things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that I have people that never gave up on me. I'm grateful for my health, and I'm grateful for my fave because it's given me all the strength that I needed to get through situations that I thought were going to get the better of me.
Wow, that is really good. That is appreciation. That's gratitude. That is gratefulness. I really second that with you on the faith one as well. That's something I'm grateful for each and every morning that I get up to think, doing the things we do. How would it have come about anyway? Without the
Yep.
grace of God. So thank you for that. Well, listen, this has been a great one. And I know I'm going to see you just in a couple of weeks on this show as well. Let's tell everybody what show that is. Come on, let's give it a little one there. Go on.
So it's our beloved the breakfast show on Liberty Radio. We're always live Monday to Thursday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. We usually do a repeat of the show 4 p.m. of the same day. Cover
Yeah,
different topics on each day, and the mastermind Chris here. He's always on usually at the end of each month on the Thursday show. So obviously that's how we've gone to know each other and to build up our own
yeah.
relationship.
It's been great. It's been great. And something else as well. Where can people tap into you and see what you're doing and what you do? Where can they get you as well yourself, or if they need advice?
Awesome. So I am on a few platforms. My main platform is post YouTube videos. So I guess on youtube.com/@ football onslaught. So that's onslaught with capital O, then lowercase NSLAUGHT. That's what you can find me on. My videos on there. Also my X account, you could probably put twitter.com/William_OOREGAN. And I've got a link tree in all of those ones. So literally all you have to do is probably just click a link and you can find me on the other platforms as well. But I think those are the ones I'm most active on. And also you could find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/William OOREGAN journo. And yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm on quite a few spaces.
Wow, it sounds like it. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I'll tell you something though. When you said, I was listening and said, I'm on X Twitter. I thought, why do you want to go and see your ex, man? And I got you. I got you.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. But no, that's great. That's absolutely brilliant and fantastic. And you're everywhere. And you're teaching me how to do that, be everywhere at the same time as well. So listen, Will, this has been a great interview. There's so much to glean from that. And I'm looking forward to hear from you, viewers. Like, what you thought of it? What do you thought of Will's journey? How's it helped you as well in come throughs? Drop us a line. Drop us a line at Cuppa Confidence. That'd be great. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
So, Will, on that note, and on the behalf of all our listeners, I want to say a big thank you for taking the time and coming on. It's just, there's so many gems in it to glean. It really is. So we're looking forward to the part 2. We're going to book that in for next week. Okay.
Honestly, yeah, and yeah, I was saying like for everyone watching, make sure you're subscribed to Cuppa Confidence because obviously even in between when we definitely do part 2 of this, Chris, I know you're going to be talking to some more awesome people, and obviously you already got some videos up on the page. So yeah, please, yeah. This is if you enjoyed this, then you're definitely enjoying the rest of the videos that are already on here.
That's great. You heard him. So as he says.
Yeah. He didn't pay me to say it, guys. This is from me. I'm saying this from me.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So on that note, I'm going to say, Cuppa Confidence to you.
And a Cuppa Confidence to you too.
Thank you. Many blessings. Will, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
See you again soon. Bye-bye.
See you again. Bye-bye.